Hi there, it's Denise Ackert from Balance Me Coaching. And as you know, I love coming on here and sharing different techniques and practices to help us reduce our stress. And today I've got Sue, and Sue's got a very unique practice. So Sue, can you let us know what you do?
Yeah, so first of all, Denise, thank you for having me on your show. This is so much fun. I love talking about what I do, and so podcasting has just been a fabulous outlet for me because I'll talk your ear off about what it is.
Okay, we have 20 minutes.
Yeah, I know. We'll keep it down. So what I do is I call it, I'm a sound healer with a side of coaching, or a coach with a side of sound healing. And the sound healing technique that I do is called Biofield Tuning. And the principle of Biofield Tuning, it sounds really woo when I start to talk about it, but there's like there's 20 years of research behind this and a lot of science. And there's the person who created this technique actually created a website to help her keep track of all of the research that she's been doing. So there's a rabbit hole for you to go down if you really want to get deep into this technique. But the short answer, the layperson's answer, is that our brain, our heart, and our gut generate an electromagnetic field that surrounds our body. This is easily provable with half a dozen pieces of equipment that you can find and use pretty much anywhere, anytime. This field has been pretty much mapped. It goes out 3 to 4 feet-ish. There are things that shrink it and things that expand it, but on average, it's about that. It dips in a little bit at the head and up at the feet, so it looks kind of like an apple. The official name is a toroid shape. And as I said, our brain, our heart, and our gut are generating the electricity and the electromagnetic field that goes out there and does this. Our brains are part of the biggest piece of this electromagnetic field. And if you'd ever heard the phrase thoughts are things, thoughts are things. Thoughts are chemical reactions that produce electromagnetic frequencies that go out into this field. It's pretty cool. It turns out that our thoughts are things. The thoughts, especially if they're repeated, if they're heavily used, if they've got a lot of what we'll call energy behind them, there's a lot of chemistry being built up around them, they get written into this electromagnetic field and held there, so that the electromagnetic field is also writing back to our bodies. So let's say, Denise, do you have any siblings?
Yes, I have a younger sister.
Oh, great. Oh, that's perfect. So let's say that when you were young, your younger sister broke something of yours that was very valuable and was very precious to you, right? This happens all the time. It doesn't matter whether it's an older sibling, a younger sibling, whatever. That happens all the time. We cry, we kind of get over it. But what if one of the, what I call parental units, and it could be mother, father, auntie, uncle, Grammy, grandpa, some adult who is in authority over us, comes in and says, oh, Denise, it's fine that broke. It should have broken a long time ago. You shouldn't be hanging on to it. And your younger sibling is totally forgiven and actually praised for having broken it. Right? There's just this.
Oh, it happened. I was the oldest, so yes.
Oh. Right? And so it's actually a sense of betrayal. It's a sense of lack of trust. It's like, wait a minute, you mean this thing that was really precious to me, they're just going to blow it off? It's okay? That's not okay. And especially when you're younger, young kids are inherently selfish. They have their things, they belong to them, and that's kind of the way it is. It's the way we're wired. And so if somebody comes and breaks that strongly held emotion and feeling and thought process get written into our field. Over time, that little signal goes out and it starts getting reinforced. And so you run into people who betray your trust, who take things away from you, who break your stuff, who get away with stuff, and it becomes a repeated pattern in life. What Biofield Tuning does is it takes specially designed tuning forks and literally sticks a fork in it. We use the forks in the field and we put them in, and when we find what's officially called a perturbation, I call them kerfluffles, some people call them tangles. It's a highly charged thought, belief, or emotion. When the fork runs into that, it creates consistent frequency that allows that tangle of energy to unravel, to unwind, and get returned back to the system. So it's no longer sending out these signals of, come on, betray me, I already know you're going to do it. Or whatever it happens to be. I mean, there's 7 different patterns that could be, and betrayal happens to be one of them. And it's pretty easy to talk about and give it as an example. And so one of the first things that happens is stress goes way down because that fight or flight instinct is no longer being constantly triggered because you don't have that signal going off in your field all the time.
Wow.
The other thing that happens, and I'll just mention one more thing, is that this signal creates a filter. And that filter keeps you from being able to notice and experience opportunities or situations that might be beneficial to you, because you don't want to be betrayed, you don't want to, have your trust broken. And so in general, it will filter out either situations where you could give trust and it would be okay, or even just mild sorts of things. And so you lose a lot of things in life that could have brought you benefit and could have brought you great joy, actually. So I love working with Biofield Tuning because it's just so amazing. People literally say they feel lighter, both in terms of weight and in terms of their vision shifts, and they actually perceive more light coming in.
So it almost sounds like, when we do experience things like that, we're building up energy walls to protect ourselves.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
So how do you remove these energy walls?
Well, for years, I was a fan of affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
I was a fan of EFT. I thought EFT was the most brilliant technique that you could ever find. That, for those of you who don't know, it's emotional freedom technique, or tapping, where you're tapping on various points in the body to help release some of those thoughts, beliefs, and emotions. And the problem that I find with both affirmations and, first of all, with affirmations, the thing that I find is that you have to repeat them over and 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 over. There's a reason there's this 21-day or 35-day, depending on who you talk to, lag time, because you have to overcome the signal that's held in your field. You have to continually overwrite that consistently, right? So it's a lot of work to do that. With EFT, there's a little bit less work. You're doing tapping and you're changing the electromagnetic field, but you have to know what you're looking for. With EFT, you have to start from somewhere, and you kind of dig through the underbrush and go through the blackberries and the poison oak. You have to take a chainsaw, and so it takes time. It just takes time. And you might be going down a rabbit hole that might not be doing you any good whatsoever. With biofield tuning, you don't need to know anything. You don't need to relive it. You don't need to state it. You just need to go, hey, my life isn't working the way that I like. Let's see if we can clear that up. And that's as far as you need to go, really. I mean, some people come in with very specific intentions, but you could come in with, hey, you know, things are just not clicking on all four cylinders. Let's put a tiger in the tank. Let's go.
I love the idea of clearing your energy. I do, because I've worked with some people that do emotion code release.
Yes.
And it's just getting it out and getting it done. And I know for myself, I had some issues in the past. And when you go to actual, like, you know, the Western therapy, you talk and talk and talk. But to me, it never really worked, because you'd get a trigger, and that trigger would just set things right back to where they were before you started therapy.
Right.
So now, do you work with people online, or do you have to be in person?
No, the brilliant woman who created this technique for years had said, this can only be done in person. You can't do it remotely. You can't even think about doing it remotely. It's not going to work. And about 2 years ago, before the pandemic, so I'm going to say 2019, the end of 2018, the beginning of 2019, she said, okay, that's a limiting belief. Let's just check that thought. Because she's all about experimentation. And okay, let's just figure this out. Let's see if this works. And she said, I've been saying this all along. Let's see if that's a true statement. So she experimented. And sure enough, everybody that she worked with, it turned out to have exactly the same results remote as it did in person. There's just a slight change in the protocol, but other than that, it works. So I've been doing it remotely ever since the pandemic started.
Wow. Now we are dealing with women that are stressed here and releasing stress. Can you give us an example or a story that you've experienced of helping someone reduce their stress?
Yes. This is both a physical stressor as well as an emotional stressor. So one of my clients, when I finished, she came in for a particular purpose. I'm not going to mention the purpose, but she came in for a particular purpose. And it was to clear something that wasn't working in her life. And I did the session with her. And at the end of the session, she got up and she got off the table. We have folks generally lying prone when we're in person. And she got off the table and she went, I can walk. I said, that's funny. You walked up the stairs and down the hallway just fine. You didn't seem to be limping. What's the deal? She goes, no, you don't understand. Ever since my third son was born 16 years ago, my hip has been permanently displaced. And for you women out there who've been pregnant, you know that when you get pregnant, there's hormones that stretch the ligaments in the hip to make the pelvis wider so that the baby can do what it needs to do. Because of certain things and activities that were going on with her, her hip permanently stayed that way. So her hip was stretched and she had to go to a chiropractor every 2 weeks. And it was very stressful because if she didn't go, scheduling didn't allow it, it hurt. And pain is a huge stressor, let me tell you, right?
Yeah.
And, she'd have sore hips and she wasn't able to bend over properly and all this sort of thing. And here it was, completely spontaneously, wasn't something that I was looking to do. She had never mentioned it before. And she said, I can walk. She said, my hip has just gone back. And she spoke a bit about the emotional stuff that had been pulled up in the session, and it had just vanished along with her hip going back. There was the stuff that wasn't even the intention that had gone away, and the hip came back.
Wow, it's almost like she was stuck in that time, and
Yes.
the hip was stuck with that time,
Yes.
and just releasing that.
Yes.
So great. We're going to start wrapping this up. Is there something that you'd like to share with the audience? Some advice to help reduce our stress in our crazy world right now?
Yeah, I have a download that I'll provide the link to, and it's called 3 Steps to Getting Rid of a Negative Thought. And the alternate title is Can't Get Him or Her Off Your Mind, which is, I wrote it for a relationship thing, but it's really how to get rid of a negative thought. And it's 3 short steps. And they're not quite what you think they are, but when you do them, the negative thought will go away. I guarantee it, and it won't come back.
I love that. Okay, great. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
Well, I do these sessions Monday through Friday. I love to work with women who are stressed because really these sessions can get rid of so many things. Anxiety, betrayal, if there have been, relationship issues, all of that can be transformed in, a 90-minute session. Although I do recommend getting a 3-pack or a 6-pack, because one session does like this much good, and then it becomes logarithmic after that. The second session is like, oh my God, we just did that. The third one is, oh my God, we just did that. So
Peeling that onion, isn't it?
well, it's like getting chunks of the onion. That's the thing that I love. EFT is like peeling the onion. You get, one little thing. But with biofield tuning, you like take out half of it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I enjoyed learning about this because I've never actually heard about it before.
Yeah, it's a fabulous technique. Thank you so much, Denise, for giving me the opportunity to talk about it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for listening. Just a final note, if you're struggling with burnout or chronic stress, I have free resources such as a podcast, Facebook support group, my blog. To get these free resources, please visit my website at www.balance-me.ca. Now, this is Denise Eckert signing off, and contact me if you're looking to create a happier, more balanced lifestyle today.